Hello and welcome to yet another exciting episode of iBuzz. I'm your host Nashin Bukhari, bringing you the latest and most exciting entertainment news from showbiz world. In today's episode, we will discuss the addition of a Bond movie for the very first time in a movie festival, followed by Elijah Wood's wish to join the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But before that, let me quickly take you to the top stories of the day. James Bond's No Time to Die gears up for Zurich Film Festival. Elijah Wood looking to step into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Serbian film wins top prize at Karlovy Vary Film Festival. Sony's Spider-Man movies top rental charts after No Way Home. The Jacksons hope to release song with Michael's unheard work. And Justin Bieber becomes Spotify's most listened artist. And now moving to our top story of the day. James Bond's new film, No Time to Die, is all set to play in the official selection of the Zurich Film Festival. To discuss this further, we are joined by podcast producer and host Swain. Mike, welcome to the show.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good, thank you, Mike. So never before has James Bond been in the official selection of a film festival. Do you think this initiative will impact the promotion of this movie, since the number of cinema goers it has been reduced lately due to COVID?
I think it will. I think there's a couple of things going on here. So it's the Swiss premiere at the Zurich Film Festival, which is quite a big deal. The Swiss are very into their movies, and the Zurich Film Festival is a big deal. So it's an interesting one. The actual premiere, the world premiere, is going to be at the Royal Albert Hall in London, and yeah, is having a big Hollywood blockbuster movie being showcased at the Zurich Film Festival is great. It's really cool.
Right. The industry has waited more eagerly for this movie than any other. So debuting it, I mean, it's not being debuted, but in a film festival, it's going to be the first time. So do you think Bond franchise is abiding by the rules of film festival this way in order to feel inclusive? Because some film festivals this year were criticized for adding movies which were not screened on cinemas, but they were streamed on digital platforms.
I think this is slightly different because this is going exclusively into cinemas first, and then we'll go on streaming platforms a little bit later on. This is also a premiere of a film rather than just a screening of a film. So it's the Swiss premiere. So it's a big deal in that respect. It's the first time this film is going to be shown to the world, and it's going to be in Switzerland at the Zurich Film Festival. Things like the Marvel films and any of the Disney films that have gone straight to Disney Plus. That's a little bit controversial, and yeah, I do agree that cinema films, big blockbuster films, should be shown in a cinema. I appreciate COVID's a little bit tricky with that kind of thing, but that experience of going to the cinema, I've really missed that throughout the pandemic. Right.
The Bond franchise is almost about to become 60 years old. Over the time, James Bond producers are interested in pushing 007 boundaries after a risky Daniel Craig era. So do you think the producers will be able to target the modern audience, which is increasing day by day with a different taste in movies? And probably because of these long breaks in Bond movies, they do not have that sort of attachment with the franchise.
I think Daniel Craig's an interesting one because he was meant to be doing 4 movies, and then he was meant to call it a day. So after Spectre, he was meant to call it a day, and they've brought him in for another one, which has been delayed and delayed and delayed. I think what they could do with the franchise is, rather than that being James Bond as a certain type of character, it could just be a name, and it just attached to the various people. So there's always been kind of interest in different types of people playing that role, like even being women or people of color as well.
Right. And Mike, also this is going to be the last Daniel Craig Bond movie. Bond fans will be a little sad, but then again, they're also curious to learn who will be the next Bond. So in your opinion, of all the names being speculated, Which one of these seem the most suitable for the Bond character?
Oh, that's a very good question, and it's very. I couldn't place it. Like, I think lots of people think Idris Elba would be great, and I think he'd be awesome, particularly off the back of the Fast and Furious movies. But yeah, it's very difficult to say who it would be. But yeah, it's an end of an era really for James Bond with Daniel Craig kind of bowing out now. But having said that, he was meant to bow out a movie ago. So yeah.
Right. And do you think that experimenting with the Bond franchise is going to help it increase
his audience?
Yeah.
I think there'll be a lot of traditionalists going, that's not a Bond movie, but I do think, like, particularly with things like Fast and Furious and Marvel films and things like that, yeah, they do need to experiment a little bit.
Right. And Mike, a very wise decision of adding No Time to Die in the Zurich Film Festival, since a lot of eyebrows have been raised when Amazon Prime bought the entire MGM. So what are your expectations from No Time to Die as a movie critic?
As a movie critic, I do love the Bond films. I think they'll have high expectations because they've delayed this for 2 years. One of the biggest reasons they've delayed it is because of the China market. 200,000 cinemas in China were closed during the pandemic, so they had to close. They had to delay the movie, and also things like Skyfall. It grossed $1.1 billion. And at the moment, No Time to Die is costing them money. I think I read somewhere that it was costing them so far has cost them $300 million by stalling this film. So it's got high expectations in the box office, but also being Daniel Craig's last outing is going to have high expectations as a critical movie as well.
Right. And now, Mike, we'll move to our top story of the day, which is Hollywood superstar Elijah Wood. He has a sight set on a major role in a large sandbox, preferably involving the Marvel Cinematic Universe. What do you think Elijah entering as a lead role would do to MCU?
I love the MCU. I'm a huge fan. I think it'll be an interesting one. I completely appreciate what he wants to do. Like he was in Lord of the Rings. He played Frodo, and that's quite interesting. And he voices a character in Star Wars as well. So he's already in two very big franchises. But for him to join the MCU, he's going to have to wait a while. At the moment, where they're doing Phase 4 of the MCU. And they've probably cast virtually everything. The only thing that is still in pre-production is the Fantastic Four, which is going to be released in 2024. So he may have a chance to join that cast, but and actually he'll probably be quite good in the Fantastic Four as well. I think he would definitely suit one of the characters there. But if he wants to join the MCU, he's going to have to wait a while.
And Mike, like you said, that Elijah holds a strong history of being with the biggest blockbusters, but it has been very long since Elijah Wood came up with any blockbuster in years. So this could be a good comeback for him, wouldn't it?
It'd be an excellent comeback. He's done a few movies recently. He did the Ted Bundy movie, which is definitely a little bit more, let's just say, not so family friendly. And he's also making a name for himself in a Star Wars, just as I said. So I think if he's going to go into those kind of big sandboxes, I'd almost say, I wouldn't say for certainty, but I'd say he's more likely to join Star Wars because he's already got a character there that he's playing as a voice, and Star Wars and Disney are they're bringing a lot of the characters from the animated things through into the live action in The Mandalorian and all the other live action they're doing. So I think he's more likely to go into Star Wars than the MCU, but we'll see. As I said, they're probably casting for things into Phase 5 into the MCU, so it could be interesting to see what happens there.
Right. And Mike, keeping what Elijah has expressed about MCU in mind, it seems like every other actor is impressed by Marvel movies and they want to be a part of it. I would like you to comment on that.
Marvel is an enormous beast, I think is the best way to put it, and it's a very, very interesting kind of space to be in. They started off with a couple of movies, and now they've created whole worlds which have got TV shows, comics, rides on in places as well. So it's something, and it is, and with all the stories intertwined and everything like that, if you're going to be involved with that, you're going to make a name for yourself. So yeah, even if Elijah ends up being a bad guy in the MCU, he's going to infiltrate that world very well, I think.
Right. Mike, thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
That was Mike Swain discussing our top stories of the day. And now moving to other story details of the day. Film by Serbian director Stefan Arsenjevic won the Crystal Globe Award at the Karlovy Vary Film Festival in Czech Republic. The film, co-produced by Serbia, France, Luxembourg, Bulgaria, and Lithuania, tells the story of two African migrants in Serbia. English actor Michael Caine received the Crystal Globe for his outstanding contribution to the cinema world at the beginning of the festival, the most influential in Central and Eastern Europe. Among other winners were Ethan Hawke. Sony has seen a huge spike in interest in their old Spider-Man movies as people refresh themselves on the potential multiverse arrival. It seems that Sony are currently riding on such a wave of attention right now thanks to the arrival of the Spider-Man No Way Home trailer. While the trailer itself was a huge record breaker, the ripples that have come from it are almost as big as those being seen in the multiverse, as all of Sony's previous Spider-Man movies have found themselves soaring up the iTunes rental chart. Michael Jackson's family are planning to bring him back to life in song. The King of Pop died in 2009, aged 50, but his brother has revealed that Jacksons are hopeful of recording a new track that features previously unheard work from Michael. His brother told that it would be so pleasing to be on a record with Michael once again. Anything that would work, we would be willing to give it a try and see what happens. Justin Bieber has become the most listened to artist on Spotify ever. The Sorry hitmaker has broken the all-time record set on the streaming platform and now has the most monthly listeners of any artist on Spotify, with a mammoth 83.3 million listeners each month. The record was previously held by Ariana Grande, who held 82 million monthly listeners at her peak, while this time around, The Weeknd secured 74.5 million monthly listeners, and Ed Sheeran placed third with 72.4 million listeners. And that's it from our newsroom. We will be right back after a quick short break. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Today, we will pay a special tribute to the Australian icon, Cate Blanchett. Best known for her versatility in independent films and stage work in various theater productions, Cate is rocking Hollywood since 1992. To pay the tribute, we are joined by our one of most favorite film critics, Josh Fromm. Josh, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for that lovely introduction, Nasheen.
The pleasure is all mine. So, Josh, I think it is impossible to sum up everything about Cate Blanchett and to pay her a tribute, but at least we can try today.
Let's give it a go, shall we? Let's give it a go, because
so please.
the introduction that you said pretty much summed it up, because she's known for her versatility. Because Cate Blanchett is one of those actresses that has and can, or I should say can and has played characters from all different walks of life, and has done everything. She's done both period films, she's done modern films, all of which in a very convincing way. And I think that's helped by her history and her background in theatre, because she's performed everything from modern type productions to, you know, ancient Greek plays like Sophocles' Electra. So I think the stage background has given her kind of an edge to her film acting, because it allows her to kind of adapt to all different kind of roles in ways in which other traditional, I should say, Hollywood actresses can't.
Yes. And talking about many great performances, I would like you to begin with the famous Lord of the Rings, where she appeared as Lady Galadriel. I mean, it really gives you goosebumps by the time, you know, her voiceover begins in the start of the movie. That is amazing. I mean, from the voiceover to her own character, I mean, how would you like to describe that?
I just think the word epic epic is the one word that I'd used to describe Lord of the Rings. It was an epic franchises in all ways, and you know, it wouldn't be Lord of the Rings without the likes of Cate Blanchett, without the likes of Swain and McKellen. You know, it was an epic trilogy in every sense of the word, and it wouldn't have been the same on screen if it wasn't for the likes of all the ensemble cast, which includes Cate Blanchett. And that's the thing, I think Lord of the Rings just shows the characterization, the amount of effort that Cate brought to that character. I think it just shows, again, her versatility as an actress.
Right. And Josh, the curious case of Benjamin Button. I would like to know your thoughts on Daisy's character.
Well, I mean, the thing is that that's one of the performances in which I'm not so familiar with, but all that I will say is just, again, from going from Lord of the Rings to a film like Benjamin Button, you know, it just shows how eclectic she is as an actress, you know, and she's done everything. She's even worked with Wes Anderson for The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou. So, you know, and Wes Anderson's films have this kind of almost Brechtian style of acting, and it just shows, again, how much Cate can adapt from one style to the other. You know, when she's worked with so many great directors. You know, she's worked with Scorsese on The Aviator, and in that film she is actually, interestingly enough, the only actress to get an Oscar for playing another Oscar-winning actress, and that was in The Aviator, working with the likes of Scorsese. She's worked with the likes of Wes Anderson, and again, you know, going from that Brechtian sort of style of acting to kind of being an absolute badass in the likes of Ocean's 8, you know, alongside the likes of Rihanna, Helena Bonham Carter, Sandra Bullock. You know, there is nothing that Cate can't do.
Absolutely. And then, you know, from all these characters to jumping to Marvel and, you know, appearing in Ragnarok, I mean, how would you describe this entire journey? I mean, this is something completely different, Ragnarok. I mean, it's not easy being a Marvel villain, especially a lady villain, but she has absolutely nailed it. So how did you see her performance in Thor Ragnarok?
Well, you say that it's not easy being a female villain. I think Cate adapts. I think Cate has the qualities that are there. You know, she can play darker characters. You know, she's played mentally ill characters before, which has given her a real edge on screen. You know, I think we've seen in her performances from even going back all the way to Elizabeth, where once again, she was one of the only actresses to be nominated for the same part in two different films. I think even then we see kind of equalities, because Elizabeth is imperfect, and, you know, there are real moral dilemmas within Elizabeth's kind of career as queen, Elizabeth I, that is, about, you know, the way in her different attitudes towards life and her morality as a character. You know, she goes from being so lovable to being this absolutely hated character for ordering the execution of her own cousin, Mary, Queen of Scots. So I think Cate has that kind of darker quality there. And again, I mentioned Ocean's 8. You know, she's an absolute badass. She can play characters that are very one-dimensional. You know, I know villains at times aren't completely two-dimensional characters, and sometimes they are, but, like, you know, Cate has that badass edge that she can bring to any character. So I think her work as a villain, again, for Marvel, you know, this is Cate Blanchett. I don't put anything past Cate Blanchett. I wouldn't be surprised if she turns up in the next Star Wars film. You know, try a bit of sci-fi out. Why not? Because she's the sort of actress, like Meryl Streep, that can adapt her personality to suit any given character. Absolutely. And that's something that, as an actress, you know, not every actress can do that. You know, Diane Keaton, brilliant actress though as she is, can you imagine her playing the sort of roles that have the absolute versatility that of Cate Blanchett's career? No, unfortunately, you can't.
Of course not.
So this is the thing. This is what Cate Blanchett does best. Is she, like Meryl Streep, is an incredible character actress.
It looks like her goth phase that she, you know, talked about during her teens, probably it has helped her to adapt these characters very easily.
Absolutely, because it's that spark, it's that kind of punk edge, it's the kind of, again, kind of going through those sort of phases, you know, you can bring all of those different energies and all of those different life experiences to those characters, and particularly with the goth phases as well, you know, those kind of darker themes when it comes to playing a villain and internalizing that anger, you know, that's the sort of character aspects you need to kind of put into playing that kind of villainous parts, and that is what Cate Blanchett does so beautifully.
Absolutely. Josh, we're running out of time. I would really like you to quickly talk about the activism that Cate is into. You know, when she spoke to Sky News in 2013 and said that she was concerned that a wave of conservatism sweeping the globe, it was threatening to women's role in society. So how would you comment on that?
You know, I think Hollywood as a whole is trending in a is going down a very liberal direction. I think as an actress, she needs to be careful. I mean, obviously, the Time's Up and Me Too movements, as brilliant as though they are, they have had a massive effect in Hollywood. And I think in terms of actors and actresses speaking up against political ways, you know, it's absolutely fine to do that in a way in which affects the movie industry, because, you know, when Frances McDormand got up at the Oscars and said, I want every woman nominee to stand up, you know, we have projects that we want to talk about, invite us into our offices, I have 2 words for you, inclusion rider, you know, that was brilliant, because the eyes are on the movie industry. So when you're talking about the industry that you're actually in, I think people will pay attention to that. However, when it comes to kind of other environmental topics, I think actresses and actors should be very careful in how they use their platform, because some people go, well, you're a Hollywood actress that has earned millions of pounds throughout movies, so what do you know about prejudice and prejudice? And yes, whilst they face prejudice in the movie industry, you know, these are internal Hollywood and British movie industry points. However, it's kind of putting them into the wider society as a whole. I do think that's very concerning. So, you know, I think Cate and all actors and actresses do need to be careful when it comes to their activism.
True, true. Josh, it was wonderful having you for this tribute to Cate. Thank you very much indeed.
Machine, it's been great. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. That was Josh Fromm paying a homage to Cate Blanchett. And that is it from today's episode. We hope you liked it. Don't forget to share your feedback on the social media link mentioned down below. We'll see you next time. Until then, take care and goodbye.